Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, which is AI Day, the biggest thing that'll ever hit our planet. And today we're going to talk about, despite the oil issue in the Middle East right now, that soon won't matter because there's a brand new oil in town. And I'm going to break it all down. And a big thank you. Did that work, by the way? Hope the audio is working. I don't know. I heard a weird ping. But crazy world out there. Let's get into it. This one is called Who Wins the Chip Wars? And if I am right in what I predict, the world will be very different in 3 to 5 years. Let's get into it. This is very important. And shout out to Sean Dean, T&D, and everybody a little earlier today because of meetings. Anyway, let's get into it. Not financial advice, just a guy on the internet. But I promise you, this one is a banger. At least it's very exciting to me because it's not just a video of the day, but it's a culmination. Like each one of these videos takes literally weeks to prepare, and then they're all scheduled in together. So it's not like they're just pulling a rabbit out of a hat. But I hope you enjoy the content, my friends, because you will not find anything like this anywhere else. And shout out to Robert P. I have one Patreon membership. Thank you, Robert P., for joining. By the way, when I started making videos for YouTube, I didn't even know what Patreon was, but it's incredible. Thank you. And this is part of the AI Alpha playlist. You can see it above if you need it. And let's get into a couple of things. I'm going to spend a few minutes introducing this topic because it's so important. As I say, everybody needs chips. And we're not talking potato chips or French fries, but chips. This is not about gadgets or phones or anything else. This technically is a zero-sum geopolitical struggle. This is the new oil, way more important than everything. And I'll tell you why, because they will power everything in the 21st century, from the electrical grid to cars, to phones, to military things. Everything needs chips. Even if you have an ID tag in your dog, that's actually a chip as well. They are everywhere and they touch everything. Also, again, during the war that's going on right now, military superiority is built on chips. Period. The country that leads in chips wins future wars. No ifs, ands, or buts. And that's why I'm happy the current administration is aware of China, because their chip building push, they know what's going on, and they're very good at planning ahead. Also, we have very fragile supply chains. Think Taiwan, think TSMC, think ASML in the Netherlands, think bottlenecks galore. We'll talk about some of those things as well. I just heard this morning that the world could be out of jet fuel in 5 weeks. That means no planes fly, which means people can't get around. Just think about that. And I heard in the place called the Philippines, people can't get from island to island because they've got no oil for the boats. People travel around there from the islands with ferries or something. Anyhow, it's all crazy. And in addition, US lead is slipping. China is all in on catching up and dominating the space. We need, at least the US and Europe, they need a Manhattan-style project. And the control of chips will decide the future balance of power. And this all sounds very dramatic. But there's one guy that realizes what's going on. And that's why it is absolutely critical to get all the chips you can possibly get your hands on and make sure there is no supply chain constraint or any frailty in the whole connection to get your access to chips. We're going to break it all down. And again, very important for your portfolio for the future. And I'll explain why. First of all, Jensen Huang, the god of chips right now. He has claimed the throne for now. He had a great Dwarkesh interview, and this is part of the inspiration for this video too. But he says, we are the best. We have the best chips. Nobody can touch us. Da, 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 da. But then Elon drops AI5 saying it's complete. And you got Google and Broadcom with their TPUs striking back. And you got Trainiums from Amazon and so much more. And you got Marvell doing stuff. And you got ASML getting into the chip game. It's all about chips. And this is the matchup of the decade. You know, people think, oh, crypto's the biggest thing. Crypto's nothing compared to chips. Okay? Nothing. Not I go after the TAMs, the biggest TAMs. That's where the most money is. Anyway, most people won't understand this, but those that are here will. So congratulations. Then Jensen also talked about a software moat. His superpower isn't just the excellent hardware, but CUDA, which has hundreds of billions of uncopyable investment over the last 15 years, libraries, frameworks, ecosystems, etc. And competitors can't replicate this overnight. It would take them 5 or 10 years, even with AI, to do it. And that, he believes, is his edge. But there are things changing. He did give a challenge, open challenge, called Inference Max, public benchmark, as a direct gauntlet to competitors to say, are you as good as me? Google talks about their TPU, and Google were way ahead of the curve building TPUs in the first place. They're custom silicon. Amazon have their custom silicon called Trainium. But they, although they could be cheaper, can they win head to head against Nvidia? And the answer is no. And Jensen's very confident in that. Now, there is one exception, Anthropic. And Anthropic apparently has a valuation now of over $800 billion. It was $300 billion weeks ago. And now it's nearly 3x'd because they're cleaning up out there in the AI world. But Anthropic are making a 3.5 gigawatt TPU bet, 3.5 gigawatt TPUs to be their backbone for LLMs. Again, crazy stuff happening in the world. It's all happening very fast. But back to Nvidia, to wrap up their empire. They literally have they call Blackwell their universal brain. It's the most sought after silicon on earth. It powers every major AI model, every hyperscaler, every sovereign AI, you name it. It is dominant. One chip serves 1 million customers, and Nvidia owns the entire data center AI stack. Blackwell is literally running every model for every company in every data center on the planet right now. And it's new. And they have a new one coming up. I can't remember the name after Blackwell, but they keep on iterating fast, which is key too. Now, there are some problems. We'll get into more problems as well. This is kind of the problem section of the presentation. Export bans backfired. Nvidia's China share collapsed from 95% to 55%, and that cost about $23 billion in lost sales and $4.5 billion in inventory write-downs. But Beijing now mandates domestic chips in all state data centers. Now, what I mean by this thing backfiring, US wanted to ban the sale of chips to China. That just helped them accelerate building their own stack. So the game is on. Do not fade China. They have energy out the wazoo. They have ability to manufacture at scale out the wazoo. What will the world look like in 5 years? I worry, unless there is some type of Manhattan project in the West, or else we'll end up using Chinese AI, which wouldn't be cool. Anyway, there's another problem too, the bottleneck, TSMC. This is the choke point that nobody's really pricing correctly. And guess who sees this? Elon Musk sees this. They have a thing called CoWoS, which is their chip on wafer on substrate or something like that. And they are the dominant players. They are growing at 80% compound annual growth rate. We'll talk a bit about CAGRs in a minute too. Not 8%, not 18%, 80%. They're quadrupling every 18 months. And Nvidia has locked in over 50% of their capacity out into the future. And everybody else is fighting over scraps. This is the physical bottleneck for the entire AI hardware stack. And if anything happens to Taiwan, the world is screwed, except for the people that'll make the happening to Taiwan happen. Please understand that. This is what people need to be aware of. Not just big enterprises, but governments as well. Anywho, moving on. Challengers to Nvidia as well. And in full disclosure, I own Google. I don't own Amazon. I own AMD. I own Nvidia, Google, Tesla. Big part. I'm big into AI and AI chips. That is the most important narrative now. But there are challenges coming from other players. The inside the data center challenge, you got the Google TPU versus the Amazon Trainium. Anthropic is all in on the Google TPU with that 3.5 gigawatt deal I mentioned at the beginning. Amazon claims 40% savings on Trainium, but it won't do public demos or share benchmarks. OpenAI, I don't know. I think they were building Titan with AMD, but OpenAI always say they'll do something and then they cancel their plans. So don't rely on OpenAI at all. But don't worry, Anthropic has eaten their lunch. And bottom line, again, they're all still tethered to the power grid, the same supply chain, et cetera, as Nvidia. But they're all fighting for a piece of the action. There's a big change, though, coming to data centers. By the way, on data centers here, showed this before, turn off my screen, US owns 46% of the data centers on the planet. And they all need a lot of chips. We know that. So there's a lot of demand. Now, I want to share this slide here. This is very important as well. Where am I? There I am. Up left, bottom left, whatever. I'll stick myself anywhere. This is important. This is the projected earnings growers, top earnings growers on the planet over the next 3 years. Okay, guess what? Top of the list is Tesla. Ooh, no surprise there. The Palantir number 2, Broadcom number 3, Micron number 4. By the way, I own those top 4. SanDisk, I don't own. Amazon, I don't own. Nvidia, I own. ASML, I don't own. Meta, I don't own. Micron, I own. Taiwan Semi, I don't own. But they are the list of all the top fastest growing. And you can't catch them all. You don't want to own all assets all the time. But focus on why you own the fastest growing earners and the most dominant players. It's very simple. So these are the players. And guess what? All the top, I forgot to mention, 9 of the top 13 growers on the planet for the next 3 years are all semiconductor, chip adjacent companies. This is not a coincidence. Not a coincidence at all. This is the new oil. If you come away from anything from this video today, you say, okay, chips are the new oil. I need some oil. Boom. The chip players, 6 different categories. You got your fabulous chip designers, including Tesla, AMD, Broadcom, Nvidia. Apple's in there. You got your foundries, TSMC, Samsung, Intel. Intel just partnered with Tesla. You got your memory specialists. You got Microns, Samsungs, etc. Manufacturing equipment like ASML over there in Europe. I think ASML is the biggest company in Europe right now, if I'm not mistaken, or one of them. And then integrated device manufacturing, again, Intel, Texas Instruments, Samsung. And then critical players, ARM, very, very important player as well. They are the players. Make sure, not financial advice, I should say. Make sure you own a piece of some of these, or all of them, or the winners, or whatever. Now, enter the big potential disruption to this whole space. Elon and his AI5 chip. AI4 runs in all the cars. It drives cars around the world. Physical AI, physical AGI, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But back to reality again. They have finished taping out this AI5 chip. And it's not just another data center processor. It's Tesla's next generation inference chip optimized exclusively for the Tesla AI software stack. One mission, the physical world. Designed from day one. They've had multiple iterations for years and years and years. People say, oh, Tesla doesn't know how to build chips. They've been designing them for years because they couldn't afford the Nvidia ones. And the Nvidia ones didn't do what they wanted, and they used too much power. So they had to build their own. So they're very power efficient and very smart and very clever and respond in milliseconds. And they're at the edge. They're not in a data center. They're in a car. Very important. And they'll be in a robot. They are in a robot actually right now as well. And they finished taping it out, which means it's complete. And they're working on AI6 already, which will go into manufacturing. Who knows when? Soon, probably. But this one is complete, which will be huge. Now, the AI4 versus AI5, you can see how small AI5 is at the bottom compared to the AI4, which is in things like your Cybertruck or your Model Y, etc. Again, that's the autopilot full PCB, 2 AI4 chips on one, whatever that board is, wafer. And the second picture is the AI5 SoC, single chip with its onboard memory. And the performance of AI5 is far greater than the 2 combined AI4s. And the AI5 will find itself on board much like this, like 2 chips for fault-tolerant redundancy. There's rumor that there could be 4 chips within an Optimus robot versus 2 in a Cybercab, etc. We're not sure of the exact details. But the point is, these things are extremely clever, extremely power efficient, and can process a ton of information, just like a Blackwell chip. Some of the details of this, again, regarding Blackwell, they use 1/3 of the power of an NVIDIA Blackwell, 10% of the cost, and guess what? They work on the edge. So the delta people say, oh, Nvidia, nobody can touch them. Well, equivalent performance, 1/3 of the power, 10% of the cost. That is the insanity of effectiveness and efficiency you only get with a company called Tesla, and designed for inference at the edge. We'll talk more about the importance of those two terms. I've been hammering inference for about 2 years now. My first ever video with Cern Basher, we talked about inference, but this is important. Now, the other thing that's very important too as well, get this, wrap your heads around this. Data centers are good for setting up things like learning, etc. But the world is going to physical AGI, which means everything is going to the edge. The thought and the reaction time needs to be in the device, whether that be a robot or a car or a truck or a spaceship or a drone or whatever else. It has to be inside the head of the machine. And yes, Nvidia dominates training of huge models in the cloud, which are typically in data centers. But the future is all inference. Now, if I was to take a guess how much inference there would be compared to training in clouds and data centers, it could be 99% edge, 1% cloud. We don't know. But when it comes to the amount of consumption of compute, that will definitely be 99% inference, 1% learning. So remember that too. And Tesla aims to own inference in the physical AI and in the physical world and in space. I'll take a second here because a lot of people think space-based data centers is BS, never going to happen, can't happen. It's already happening. There's over 10,000 Starlink chips running a global telecommunications network, internet and space with Starlink. It's already there. So don't say it's impossible. It's here. You know, it's like people say, oh, robots will never be able to perform surgery. Neuralink can only be done with robots. Anyway, that's just important to position yourself for the future. That's what this video is all about. And remember as well, inference, as I always say, is the end game. And glad to see McKinsey copped onto that too. They came out and said, not that it's a warning, but it's an opportunity. Again, inference will be huge. And can you run? One of the weird theories I have is when you look at the growth here of the data and commute, according to them, AI inference is what's going to grow the most quickest over the next 4 or 5 years. But what if Tesla could turn on inference with all those AI4, AI5 chips and run it as kind of a mobile data center where the owners of the cars get paid for processing when the car is not being used? Cars don't drive 24/7. They got to sit at home. In fact, cars only drive a tiny fraction of the time. But to be able to use that inference on the edge is not priced in by Wall Street. Not priced in, but it's been in my price prediction models for over 3 years now as well. This is going to be crazy. Tesla could own the largest distributed supercomputer on the planet and off the planet as well when they start putting data center capable chips in space as well. And if it couldn't get any better, Tesla, even Jensen is talking about Tesla and sees what's next. Physical AI, self-driving cars, general robotics. This is an Nvidia slide, by the way. This is not an Nvidia pumping their own stuff slide. They're talking about Elon Musk and Tesla. Physical AI is the next big thing. Agentic is what we're in right now. Coding assistants, etc. AI agents. Next, physical. And it's coming fit, fast, and furious. It's not 5 years away. It's here now. Self-driving cars are physical AI running around Austin right now. Now, and if you don't believe Jensen, you can believe a TradFi bank. UBS came out and said, Tesla is the clear leader in physical AI, and you should buy Tesla stock now, says their analyst. Interesting. Anyway, bigger story too is TeraFab. You know, we know Elon thinks big, but then he says he has got a new ideas of how you can build a new fab to build chips where you can eat a cheeseburger and smoke a cigar in the fab, where these things are supposed to be completely clean, dust-free, etc., more than surgical. But maybe he has new ways of creating chips, bypassing traditional foundry bottlenecks like we discussed at the beginning. This ensures the physical world revolution that has the hardware supply needed to scale to billions of units. Scale. Let's talk about scale for a second. This is the land that's already been broken in Texas for the TeraFab. 100 million square feet under construction. And it'll look something like this. You'd be able to see it from the moon. It's going to be like 10x bigger than the Gigafactory, which is already the biggest factory on the planet. It's going to be massive. And the funding for this will come from not only just Tesla, but also SpaceX and XAI. This is the game. It's not about how do you optimize market caps or share prices. It doesn't matter. It's oil. Chips will be the new oil. You got to be able to build as many as you can, as quick as you can, period, without bottlenecks or threats from geopolitical circumstances we just lived through. That is the big message here. And Tesla's partnering with Intel to help ramp up some of that stuff. But Intel have a little ace in the hole, and that is this D3 capability. They have radiation hardening technology for some of their chips. We know that AI5 will power FSD and Optimus. AI4 is already powering Cybercabs. AI6, the next version, will also power more advanced Optimus as they come out every year. And then D3. And remember the timeline. Think of AI5 2027, AI6 2028, maybe a little sooner, D3 2029. Ramp full scale space-based data centers lifted up by Starship. That's the game. That's happening. And the big message here is if they can pull it off, wow, owning your Tesla shares is going to make you very rich, period. Now, back to semiconductors. Shout out to A16Z. This is their chart. I want to point out one other thing. If you're not already too excited, by the way, let me know if you are excited and hit the like, or am I just a total nerd and geek and I should be ignored? But this is incredible. There's never been a time in history like this. And if you're not excited, go see your doctor. get a medical checkup because it's very exciting. Anyway, back to this. This is from A16Z, and they are in the know. 55% compound annual growth rate is nuts. Market growth projections exploding to $1.6 trillion, driven by physical AI. Physical AI, AI, inference, edge, boom, 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 boom. Monstrous market. And remember, if you are a semiconductor company, you're going to make a lot of money. And I showed you all the names as well. So let's get into the quick summary here. Very important. The competition is very intense. Somebody needs to redo the way chips are built to get away from the bottlenecks, to get away from the geopolitical risk, to get away from the lithography needs only provided by one player. Something needs to be done to build chips that can go into space. They have all the pieces. They just need to be able to get rid of the bottleneck and build that massive TeraFab. Elon is expert at predicting the future 10 years out, and he knows this is absolutely urgent, the most urgent thing he has ever had on his hands. And he's been very excited with designing chips now for a couple of years, many years, in fact. But if a company can pull this off, the real alpha will be in these chips that power robotics, edge compute, LLMs, macro hard, your Optimus, what's the word they call it? The virtual Optimus type computer that runs everything for you, maybe returns your taxes yesterday, which would have been great, at a cadence of building these chips every 9 to 12 months. Economies of scale for cars, Optimus, data centers. Again, I'll say inference one more time. If they pull this off, we're looking at the first $100 trillion company, my friends. Massive. And my outlook for everybody, I thought this was cute. Shared it earlier today. Everyone needs chips. I don't care. Potato chips, semiconductors, memory chips. Get some chips. Part of your portfolio. Absolutely critical. I hope you all learned something new today. This is an impassioned plea. This is coming. This is happening. World will look very different 5 years from now. But now you need to get your exposure to it before it's too late. Can't wake up in 2028 and say, I need some chip exposure. By then, they'll all be too expensive. And there will be massive disruption and casualties along the way as well. So I hope everybody gets that. And I want to thank everybody for being here. Crazy stuff. That's a funny one, actually. Apparently, there's a state called Maine. I think it's Maine. I read it very briefly skimming through the news this morning. But they have banned data centers or new data centers. Like, let's just go straight back to the Stone Age. When politicians get involved in stuff, they turn everything to shit. Excuse my French. Well, didn't mean to say that. Poop. Thanks all for coming. Shout out to Team D Tesla, Shawnee K8, and a big thank you as well to IQE Labs, High IQ at IQE Labs. Thanks all. Have a good night.